fighting in a holy war. Expecting us to fight with one hand tied behind our back is naive at best. At worst, it's treason. Now, those boys out there fighting, they're only hated because they're supporting Israel. And honestly, because they're not Muslim. And don't you dare insult my intelligence by telling me that we'd all be holding hands and singing Kumbaya if we just pulled our troops out of Iraq and apologized. Because if it wasn't Iraq, it'd be somewhere else. Say, Iran or Syria. And I am not going to wait for a second 9/11, or worse yet, Israel being wiped from the map to do something. Our enemies are numerous and powerful. And they have all the time in the world.
Please stand for the presentation of the flags, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Blake Vitato.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Welcome to our 11th annual Hour with the Heroes ceremony. We are pleased to introduce to you our very own Dr. Jacob Hayward. Here we go. After the income platform.
Jacob Hayward is currently an assistant principal at Har-Ber High School. He is currently in his 12th year of education. His previous educational experiences include George Junior High, J.O. Kelly Middle School, the Northwest Arkansas Educational Co-op as a science specialist, Southwest Junior High, and currently Har-Ber High School. As a fourth-generation educator, teaching and administration are in his roots. He didn't, however, start in education. Prior to his current adventure, he joined the military. He played an important role as a captain in the U.S. Army, which has shaped him into who he is today. Here is his story.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to say hello. And students, I want you to recognize two things. One, I took my lanyard off for this presentation. So you have, for the next 30 minutes, permission to take yours off. However, when you leave, hashtag wear your lanyard. if you all decide to take pictures and post it on our website and share it with the world on any social media network, remember to hashtag Celebrate Har-Ber. So you all need to do that. Well, as I said, I'm Dr. Jacob Hayward, and first I want to say I'm honored to be a guest at this event. You know, there are a lot of people that were here this morning and have shared their story, and I'm honored to be a part of the group to get to share my story. But there are other members of my family that I'd like to recognize that have served in the military as well. First, my gramps, Marshall Brooks, served in World War II in the European campaign. My dad, Joel Hayward, was a Vietnam veteran. My brother, Jason Hayward, served in the first Iraq War. My son-in-law, Jesse Murray, who is currently in the Air Force Reserves. My great-uncle, Stanley Brooks, who originally started in the he was in the Air Force. My cousin, Randy, who was in Rangers in the United States Army. And then my wife's grandfather, Raymond Owens, who was in the Navy during World War II. So I come from a long line of veterans, and I'm proud to be a continuation of that line. So today we got a chance to honor some of our veterans and those who are in the honor, who are maybe in our audience today. I'd like to say thank you for those who have served previously and are currently serving. I appreciate your service to our country at this time. Thank you all for being the. It's titled An Hour with a Hero. I don't always feel like I'm a hero at these things. I'm just a guy who had a chance to serve his country. There are heroes definitely in the military, and I hope some of you have had a chance to hear some of them. But I didn't get a chance to experience war. I was serving in some peacetime missions. I'm going to go through those, but I'm going to talk about those things. But currently, as was stated, I'm a principal here at Har-Ber. I'm proud to be here. But that's not where I started. And little did I know that the reality of what I have now, that was different from what I thought I was going to do when I was sitting as a student in high school. So I want to talk to you about how my experiences in the military changed me, but also changed my perspective on things. It not only changed my understanding about the Army itself, but it helped me understand and grow a bigger picture and develop a more complete understanding of who I am, but also people, cultures, and just the beliefs with those who I had a chance to serve with. So, I started here. That's my high school graduation picture. I know. Good stuff. So in this picture, you see a person who had a perception of who he was and what I thought I was going to do. I started in this town. This is where I graduated from, Springdale. From that experience, I developed this perspective about the town, who I was, and what I understood the world to be. You know, I was lucky. I had the support of great teachers. I had the support of my parents. And at that time, I had a sense of myself and who I wanted to be. You know, I knew what I wanted. I had a plan. But most importantly, I had a car, and that was great because I could get around and do some great things and hang out with my friends. However, I had the opportunity to leave this area and experience the world in a way that I never thought I would do. And so one of the things I thought I wanted to do is I wanted to go to school and be a doctor, so I wanted to go to medical school. In order to do that, I wanted to go to this school. I did go to this school. This is my undergraduate at Hendrix. However, I had to figure out how to way to pay for college. Like many of you all sitting here, my seniors out there, where you at? Going on to the next level, you got to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. I knew an excellent education opportunity was in front of me, but I needed to figure out how to pay for it. So what happened was my mom actually presented this idea of the ROTC scholarship. Army was never on my radar. Never was. Never even thought about it. We didn't have all the high-speed, low-drag recruiters like we do now with Sergeant Brown and his crew. So I ended up applying for it and ended up getting it. There are 3 opportunities of winning scholarship. One is a 2-year, one is a 3-year, and then the last one that I received was the 4-year full-ride scholarship to any university that had an ROTC program that gave me 80% or up to $40,000 over the 4 years. So I could have gone anywhere. I chose to stay in Arkansas. I chose to go to Hendrix. So, now that I had agreed to go to school and go into the ROTC program, I had this perspective of the Army, of the whole military experience. And I grew up in the time of the 80s and 90s where I got to watch TV shows and movies that helped shape my experience. One of them being MASH. In fact, I wanted to be Hawkeye Pierce, medical doctor. That's who I wanted to be. But then I got to watching Platoon. I got to watching Heartbreak Ridge, Good Morning Vietnam, and last but not least, Saving Private Ryan. All of those videos and movies and television shows made me think I was this guy right here. That's what I was, hoorah, gung-ho, full military. That's the image that I had. And I loved that idea. It's a very romantic one. But it helped me to understand that the experience of the Army helped me change my reality and my perception about who they were. So one of the things I got to go do is I got to go to Fort Lewis, Washington for 7 weeks. It's part of my training while I was in ROTC. It's beautiful. Never got to see anything like it before. I've never seen anything like this in Arkansas. Not only did I get to see a new place, I got to learn really what the military was about. So as part of my summer experience, I got to see and visit with various Army representatives. I got to talk to different people about their jobs. And then I got a picture of myself while I was there. Go back. See if y'all can find me. I'm the handsome one in the picture, by the way. So if you don't see me, I'm in the upper right-hand corner. And that's the group of men and women I got to hang out with for 7 weeks. And I got to know them, I got to love them, and I got to be a better person because of them. But I really began to understand the terms of esprit de corps, unity, unit. Those are the ideas and beliefs that they began to help me better understand what leadership meant. So, one of the things I got to do is understand what careers were out there. So this is a Bradley. This is one of the things that the Air Defense Artillery offers as mechanized infantry. At the time, I was not a very good photographer, so my fat fingers got in the way. I got to look at the Avengers and other equipment that they have around. But I also got a chance to experience what it was like to be one of the pilot, or be a pilot on one aircraft. This is a Black Hawk. We got to fly around in these things quite a bit as we were doing various types of missions as part of our camp experience. So, as I was going through this process, I had to learn the responsibilities of being a leader. Now, understand, at this time, I am 21. So I've never really had to be put in a position where I'm responsible not only for myself, but for 15, 20, 30 other people while I'm in college. You know, one of the things I learned early in this experience is, while as a leader, if things go well, everybody gets the celebration. But if things go bad, the blame comes on me. And that's the way I think it should be, and I'll talk more about that later. But in my opportunities to work with the different soldiers while I was at this camp, it helped me to better understand and change my perspective about what the Army was. So I throw in this picture because I'd never seen woods like this. This is out of Fort Lewis. And it also reminded me of scenes out of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, so I thought that was cool too, so that's why I put it in here. So, yeah. So, this is what I ended up becoming, is a Patriot officer. We called those 14 Alphas back in my day. I'm not sure if they've changed the designation of those. But I was with the Army Air Defense Artillery, ADA. I was a Patriot officer, and I worked in batteries. And so it distinguished between batteries and companies based on one working with equipment versus personnel. And so like infantry and companies, we worked in batteries. And while I was working on this equipment, we got a chance to do lots of different things. And I'm going to go into some of those stories here shortly. But I was a platoon leader while I worked in my battery. I was a maintenance platoon leader. So I got a chance to work with mechanics, I worked with cooks, I worked with medics, I worked with office personnel. The Army had this whole array of responsibilities that I didn't even know existed until I got in there. And I thought that was pretty cool because they were showing me that they operate very much like any other business would operate, except our business is a little bit different. But I got to work with other agencies, such as Raytheon, and I got to work with warrant officers who were specialists with the equipment. The equipment that you see up here, on the left you're seeing as a radar, and on the far little speck out there that you see, that's an actual missile launcher, and I'm going to show you a picture here in just a moment. But on the right you got basically our generators. But we had personnel that were working on this equipment that were much smarter than I ever was, and they knew what electrical engineering was before I even could spell it. And so the roles that every one of my soldiers played was really a unique experience, and the specialties that they had and the career fields that they had was something that I was unaware of until I got into the Army to help me understand that. And so what's really cool is every once in a while this is us setting up the equipment. This was our little command van. I literally sat in a chair, looked at a screen, and I played a video game because all the images came in. Now, it was a 1980s technology video game. It wasn't like the cool stuff we have right now, but I literally would watch images screen down and fall on my screen or come off my screen, and how I would engage with them on my screen. And literally I would push buttons like I would in a video game to destroy aircraft or missiles or whatever's coming at me in various simulations that I would play in. And so today we got to set up our equipment, and that's what it looks like up close with a Patriot missile on a launcher, ready to go. Make sure the black blast area is all clear. You don't want to be standing there when that thing goes off because it looks like that. It goes up so fast, it goes up so high that the last thing you see is a little white poof in the sky. We didn't even see it engage the drone, but we knew where it was going. And that's what it looks like after it left the tube. And so my role as a Patriot officer was to fire that thing at incoming aircraft that I thought were hostile, or at any kind of missile that I felt was hostile towards my unit or to my assets. And I had a very big range that I covered. And so that's a heavy responsibility laying on a 22-year-old's shoulders when it comes to the ability to decide if I need to take a life or not. But I had the equipment, I had the training, and had the opportunity to know how to use it. And so I felt somewhat prepared. So when I was in when I was in the Army, I got to go to Saudi. I did 2 peacetime missions. In each of my tours, I went right behind a major offensive. So on my first tour, I went right after the first Gulf War. And so there was a lot of stability and unrest. So I got to go to this country right here. And I was in the capital city of Riyadh. And when you're in a foreign country, you better understand the expectations. And so when I was there the first time, we had a lot of Saddam Hussein conversations. When I was there the second time, which was right before 9/11, there was a lot of Saddam Hussein questions. But I was also there whenever the USS Cole got bombed near Yemen. And so terrorism, terrorists, the activity of terrorism in our area, that was all going on when I was in the middle of Riyadh. And so I got to see firsthand some things about a culture that when I'm on this side of the continent, it looks much different than when I'm on that side of the continent. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So, understanding what the power of the weapon that I have, understanding the capabilities that I have and my unit has, understanding the fact that I am trained in small arms munitions such as M16s, 9mm, 50 cal, and saws, so I know what I'm supposed to be doing when I get over there. It became somewhat of a heavy burden to understand what I was capable of doing, but also what I became a great responsibility to know what I had to do. And as you know, what Peter Parker was learning, with great power comes great responsibility, right? But I find that even when I'm in the Army and I'm over here doing my mission and I'm setting up to protect my assets and my people, because that's what I'm ordered to do, Army people are just like everybody else. We like to have fun. And so we got to be on a post with Air Force, and I'm telling you, guys in the Army right now, if you can ever be put on an Air Force post, do it, because it is fabulous. They have people who have their job is called morale and recreation, and all they do is make sure that you're okay and having fun. Yeah, that's great stuff. But this is where you got a sense of just being in a job and having fun with colleagues. You know, people like to enjoy the simple pleasures. Wherever you go, people are people. They want to go hang out and play volleyball. And we got a chance to play a lot of volleyball because there's not much else to do. But here's some of my sergeants, and they were just walking up. We had a PX, a store that we would go to, and we'd hang out. And we would talk to them, and we'd play games. But every once in a while, we just have a hankering for a Burger King. So they do have regular food over there, too. And that was kind of a fun experience because it wasn't too much away from home. So my experience with the military during my transitions of deployment was much different than what my dad went through and my grandparents went through when it was World War II and Vietnam. And that helped me understand my perspective better about what the military was, because my only stories is what they told me and what I saw on TV and my movies. And so the Army was really making an effort to take care of its people. The military as a whole was working, making differences and changes to taking care of their people. But these two tours impacted me. I was gone for a minimum of about 175 days, which is just under 6 months for each tour. So I had to be spending time away from my family and friends for about 6 months at a time when I went. These two experiences are some of the things that affected my change in my perspective, changed in who I was, and how I understood the world. So, remember, this changing perspective on me, I started here. And when I got commissioned, that's my class, 97. See if y'all can find me. Again, I'm the handsome one in the picture. But that's me getting sworn in as a second lieutenant. No idea what I was doing, no idea what I was getting into at that time. That's my cousin Randy, who is the Ranger in the United States Army down in the battalions out of Georgia. I was honored to have him swear me in. This is one of my buddies that went through. He was here behind. That's Colston. I have no idea what Colston's doing now, personally. I don't know if he even made it through the program, but at the time, he was one of my best friends to go through, because when you're in the Army, you share that experience with people, and that's something that bonds you. And I look out here with you all are sharing this experience in high school, and that's what bonds you. So I went back here, had a good time. I'd done a lot of traveling when I was growing up in high school. Went to St. Louis, Dallas, got to go to Kansas City a few times, but I'd never been to a place like this. So being in the Army, I got a chance to be on post where I was assigned to internationals. I had got a chance to work with Germany soldiers. I got a chance to work with Egyptian soldiers. I got a chance to work with British soldiers. And also traveling to Saudi helped me understand the importance of knowing the distinctions about the cultures and just the people associated with those cultures. When I was in officer basic school, we had Germans and Egyptians and other nationalities in our group, and they would invite us over to have dinner. And I loved eating dinner with them because of the stories they shared, but more importantly, the food was awesome. And I love to eat, guys. It's wonderful. But the meals and the conversations and all the friendships and fellowships that we shared began to help me better understand the world is a lot smaller than what I think it is. People are just people. And my second trip to Riyadh, as I was getting ready to wrap up my deployment, we were also transitioning as a task force to train Saudi Arabian nationals, soldiers, to take our equipment. So I had to begin to work with soldiers from Saudi Arabia to help them understand how to use our equipment. And so that was a challenge. How do you work with people who don't speak English very well and you don't speak Arabic very well? But it was a great experience that I'll never forget because I had a chance to help someone in a country become better at a program that they were taking over. And they helped me better understand how to work with someone who may not be able to speak the English or the language very well. With that, I also began to understand class distinctions and culture. Yeah, one of the things I learned is it's really hot over there too. That's 130 degrees pegged out on a summer day. I'm sorry you can't see the degrees, but it made me really appreciate the fact that we cool off here. In each of my deployments, I've had to experience over 125 or 130 degree weather. When I landed the second time at midnight, it was still 100 degrees on the tarmac when I first got off the plane at midnight. So it never really cooled off until I got out on the site, and then it went down to about 70. And it was cold comparatively. One of the things I had to understand is when I get to a different culture, there's different things I'm going to see and experience. One of the things I was told for is look out for white camels. They're pretty rare. Well, I saw a lot of white camels, so I think I was just being told something. However, you know, when you think of some places you can travel, there may be cattle or sheep, but in Saudi, there are herds of camels that'll walk right across the interstate. All the signage is in Arabic. Everything's in kilometers. So I had to understand what I was looking at and reading and making sure I was putting my soldiers in the right roads in the right direction. But one of the other things I really began to understand when I was over there is the culture. They do beautiful rugs. Some of them were handmade, some of them were machine-made. But I began to see another side of a country that I'd only heard only one perspective on when I was on this side of my deployment. One of the things I learned about is in Saudi Arabia, they have very class distinctions. So the people I would engage with were considered TCNs. Those are third country nationalists. Saudis have a perception that they don't do what they consider to be servant work. And to do that, they would hire nationalities out of other countries to do the jobs they didn't want to do, such as taking out the trash, selling goods, like this gentleman here with this beautiful rug. And for them, the males particularly, even becoming doctors. That was a female role. I know that's somewhat of an oversimplification, but that just helped me better understand that sometimes perceptions that I had may need to be altered because my experiences are telling me something different than what I've been hearing. And this challenged me how to be very reflective of who I was personally. How do I understand people? Did I think people were beneath me? Did I show the same respect to all persons regardless of who they were and what job they did? Was this unique to this country, or is this something that was also seen here in the United States? And this is something I still struggle with today, catching my own thoughts, ensuring that I'm still thinking that when I approach someone, I see them as an equal, and I talk to them as an equal. You know, and I've traveled to both halves of the hemisphere, both north and south and east and west, and I've been to where countries where English isn't the spoken language. And I've grown up personally in understanding who these people are. But there are other things I did that helped change my experience. And after my 4 years of the military, I opted to leave and resign my commission as an Army captain, and I pursued my first master's at Perkins. That was a great experience, but that's another story for a different time. But I'm going to go back to a couple other military experiences that I find were also instrumental in changing who I was and shaping me to be the person I am today. The single most powerful impact experience in my military career was the airborne school, period. If you guys get a chance to go, go. I still wear my wings because I'm proud to have earned them. You stand in that door. You're 12 to 1,400 feet above the ground. You've gone through 3 weeks of training of knowing how to jump out of an airplane, land on the ground, check your chute. You've done all of it from a very controlled environment. You get in a very functional, capable of flying airplane with this insane thought that I'm going to put something on my back and I'm going to jump out of it. And that's what I did. Now, unfortunately, these are not my pictures. They wouldn't allow us to carry cameras on there. But this is what it looked like from the perspective if I had done it with my own camera. This one experience taught me that I better understand, one, that if I'm going to make a commitment to doing something, I better make the commitment to doing it. And two, I better trust the equipment and the people around me. Because I had put all my trust in these individuals who put the training in me, so when I jumped out that door, I knew I was going to be okay. Because I remember the exact thought in my head when I had my red light and it turned green. It was, well, here she goes. And that was it. But it was the most awesome experience, best 25 seconds I ever had. I did it 5 times. Here's another thing that was probably the second most important things I ever did. I'm a second lieutenant on my first deployment, and I am being told that the Joint Chiefs of Staff of all the military, at this time it was General Henry Shelton, and I've got to brief him as a second lieutenant about 6 months into my unit. This is the second only to the president when it comes to being the commander-in-chief. This is who all the other generals report to in all the other militaries. Needless to say, I was scared to death. This guy, sweetest guy you'll ever meet. But General Shelton, that experience with him taught me 4 things. 1, I better know my stuff. I better know what I'm talking about. Because if I don't, they're going to see right through it. 2nd, I need to be able to recognize those who need to be recognized. As I said before, I was a platoon leader, and in my platoon I had mechanics. And again, if things go well, everybody gets rewarded. If things go bad, they fall on you. But I had an opportunity to recognize some people, and I didn't do it, and I regret that decision. 3rd thing it taught me was humility. I had to learn to be humble. This, again, was the highest ranking official, only next to the president. And our unit was good. We were the Alpha Battery 1st of the 1st Battalion. Our motto was first among equals. I feel that way about Har-Ber. We do have equals, but we're the first among them. Fourth thing I learned was courage. I thought jumping out of the airplane gave me courage, but talking to this guy made me realize I needed another type of courage. And that was a courage just to be able to speak and recognize people. And I didn't want all the things to be stuck in my throat, so I had to work through that my own personal fears to talk to him. So, come on, there it is. So these are the things that I learned in that conversation with him. Preparation, humility, kudos, doing a good job. That was being prepared and recognizing others. And then the courage to do it. So that's my story. Those are my experiences in the military, how they influenced me. I still have friends in the military, and I think of them often. They are great experiences, and they still influence me to this day. And I am forever grateful that I had a chance to serve my country. So my challenge to each of you, and I'm speaking to my students in this audience right now, is to find a way to serve your country. Military is one way. There are others. I'm going to leave you with two quotes. One is not born into the world to do everything, but to do something. And then that's Henry David Thoreau, but the other one is by Gandhi. And it says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So I challenge you, seniors, sophomores, and juniors, to find a way to serve. Thank you all for your time.
At this time, we would like to thank our Veteran of the Hour, Dr. Jacob Hayward, for sharing his story with us. We are so honored to have you as our assistant principal.
Thank you.
Presenting a special thank you is our very own Har-Ber High recruiter, Sergeant Brown. On behalf of Har-Ber East, thank you for attending today. No, you're totally fine. Take as long as you need.
Absolutely.
Oh, I can take one.
With the award too, sir.
Oh.
Hey, Johnny.